is like an SUV, and it's fucking really good looking.
Okay.
I like it.
Yeah.
But there's part of me that's like, I'm not going to buy another reasonable car. Like, that's part of what I like about it is that car is reasonable and it'll get good gas mileage.
Absolutely.
It's a very adult decision. And then it's like, you know what? No.
Yeah, I mean, you've made so many adult decisions to this point that it's like you just need to do stuff for yourself at this point.
Well, I mean, the two vehicles I drive are cartoonish. I have the giant truck and a 64 El Camino.
That's the best.
I'm not adding something like a minivan.
No, I mean, if you're going to add anything, you got to get like extravagant, something super pricey, you know?
And I'm not into that. Like the super luxury car.
Yeah,
like,
the sport cars and whatever.
Let me rephrase that. It's not that I'm not into it, because I am. They're lovely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just such a piece of shit that I know I won't take care of it. And so I'd
I
resonate
with that on such a personal level. You know what I mean?
Dude, everything I own is such a hammer.
Yeah.
I'll just destroy it.
Well, that's just how, like, we've been talking all day. That's how it is. Like, for people like us, it's just, I need someone that's going to be reliable every day. You know, truck lining or a bed lining, throw my shit in it. I got a steel shot put, plates if I need it, you know, lifting shoes, throwing shoes. There's so much stuff that I just would throw in the back of a truck like the Tundra, that having something that, first of all, let's be honest, my big ass isn't going to fit in a sports car. You know what I mean? No. You look at a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, there ain't no way that my 5x5 frame is fitting in one of those. Not unless you gut it and literally put like a go-kart seat right in the middle and just have me work the shift right in the middle, right in front of me.
My tattoo artist, Nico, was telling me this story. I guess he had tattooed The Rock at some point.
Oh, okay,
so,
wow.
Weirdly, because you get 30 hours of that dude's time that's uninterrupted. Like, no one else gets it, right?
Of course,
and so, like, they're just holding conversation about whatever. And so one of the things, I guess, Nico had asked him was something along the lines of, like, yo, you ever just buy something stupid because you made it?
For sure.
And he's like, yeah, I did. He's like, at some point he had bought like a Lamborghini.
Oh, of course.
First big check from WWE, right?
Yeah.
So buys this Lambo and then like very quickly realizes like my goddamn bag doesn't fit in here. He's like, dude, I had it for like 6 weeks before I traded it back in, and then I bought a Suburban.
Yeah. Well, you know what the best part is about him is that he's got that fuck you money. So it like
it does now.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure at the time he was getting that tattoo, he probably had that money as well because he's had fuck you money since what? 2002?
Yeah. Nico redid the bull.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, because he's probably had that since when he was doing his wrestling career.
What a weird what a weird thing to cover, right? Like something that iconic you built a brand around was that bull.
So did he like detail the bull, or he just did something?
Redid it.
Wow.
Redid the whole arm, like covered it.
Yeah.
And redid the bull again, but it's now a half sleeve.
Oh wow.
Instead of just what looked like an early 90s bull tattoo.
Somebody that
I'd like a bull.
Yeah, half the money. Yeah, exactly.
There it is.
He just like had a booklet and he was like, yeah, that'll kind of work, I guess. Looked at a Google image.
You get in that too, and it's like somebody there is like, dude, what if your entire thing's built around that idea? And he's like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you could probably make a whole brand and you could probably be sponsored by people and they'll make T-shirts about it, like your whole thing. And he's like, what? No, this is badass. That's why I'm getting it.
All right, so let's dive into this. Tell me the reality of what is now being a professional shot putter.
Okay, so the reality is when I left USC, which is, if people are listening, they don't know, I went to USC from 2015 to 2018. And up until this point, right now, in this present moment, shot put has become, they're superhumans in the sport. They're superhumans in the sport. So when I was leaving college, I was at a point where I believe my PB at the time was like 1972, which in the world of shot putting right now, that is, if you throw 1972, it's any sort of meet internationally or any meet overseas, you're just not going to do well.
So we got to translate.
Yeah. So, okay.
1972
I apologize. Yeah. 1972, I believe, was 64.8 or 64.9, I believe, was my PB, because 1982 is 65 feet, I believe.
The year before I was born.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes. So, yeah. So that's what I was throwing coming out of college. And at the moment, to be, world class or any sort of semblance of being competitive, you have to have, at least a PR of somewhere around the 21-meter mark. Which
70 feet.
Yeah, 70 feet or 69
Right.
and some change feet. So for me, it was one of those things where I had seen glimpses of that in college, in training, in the sense of like I had some throws over 20-50 in training and such. And so for me, it was like I always kind of felt like it was there. I just always felt like I was kind of grabbing for things. Like I never felt like I had like a straight line. So I just always felt like I was kind of reaching, or I was just guessing or rolling the dice. And so it got to a point where when I left college, I had such a burning fire for the sport, which is the whole reason I even went to college for it.
Yeah.
I originally in high school, which I'm sure most shot putters do, they start playing football.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you can go throw a rock and just lift as much weight as you want in the off season and stay strong
And not have to do off-season football.
Exactly. And you're just
more
kind of
running
like,
and
well,
bullshit.
yeah, you're kind of like, well, I guess. I mean, you're telling me I could bench 5 days a week and just throw that thing? All right, let's do it. Because nobody knows what you're doing in high school. So, going into college, that was just something that was like not even something I was originally planning on doing. But once I got to college, I found, like I said, this burning desire for it. So when I left, I knew I was searching for something that was going to keep me in line and get me to a point where I could actually feel like I could achieve the things that I have at this point. And not only that, but the things that I feel like are coming, which is going to be something very, very big. So at the moment, luckily, I finished this past season, the COVID season, which was kind of a tumultuous ride for most people, but a lot of people competed. So I finished off like 4th in the world with 2172, which is 72.4, I believe, 72 feet 4 inches, which for me is huge because I've been
so fucking far.
Yeah, it's been
so fucking
I
far,
appreciate
man.
that, honestly, because like I said, for me, leaving college, I had that desire to do it, but there's always that back of your mind.
12 feet further than I've ever been stoked to throw, and I'm proud to say I threw 60, right? And it's so much further than that.
Yeah, like I said, I really appreciate that, and like I said, it's a long time in the making, but I think there's so much more there. But to do that, I ended up 4th in the world, which was huge for me.
Well, I mean, fuck, man, just as perspective, because I'm a thrower nerd.
Yeah.
Like, Godina threw his PR, and it's 72 and change.
Yeah.
And fuck, if you out-threw John Godina, what a fucking name,
What did I
right?
say how far I threw?
He said 72.
Okay, so 71.4 is my
71.4,
PR.
right.
21, so 22 meters is 72.3, I believe.
Yeah.
So my PB is 71.4, but I've seen glimpses of well over Godina's PR in training and such. So I think that something like that's on the horizon.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, just to go back to what I was saying, like I said, finished off well in the world. Went to a Diamond League for the first time, which if people don't know what that is, I tell people a lot of time it's like the NFL season. So it's like two powerhouses going at it. You go to these meets, you see the best in the world at these meets.
And it's because they've got good enough prize money, everybody comes.
Of course, yeah, of course. So it's really at these meets, at Diamond Leagues, it's not just anybody. I mean, they're really inviting people who are, upper echelon per se of. Oh, did we lose the light?
We did. That's fine. We'll just keep.
Yeah, it's it's upper echelon when it comes to throwing in whatever event you're doing, whether it be the 100-meter dash, anything like that. So things like that were a big thing. And like you said, yes, there's much more money involved. But I always tell people, so Diamond League to me is like, there's the Olympic Games, which is what everybody's going for. The Olympic Games, like the Super Bowl,
right?
In layman's terms. And then to me, there's World Championships, European Championships, things like that. Right below that, and then below that, I would say Diamond Leagues, and then after that, like National Championships and such. If you go to the U.S., I mean, National Championships are up there with World Championships.
But World Championships aren't. There's not as much of a clusterfuck as the Olympics because the Olympics are such a thing.
Of course. I mean, the World Championships happen much more frequently.
They're
than
like
the
a track
Olympics
meet.
Absolutely, yes,
they're just a big track.
It's
meet.
just for track. So
Right.
when you're doing a World Championship, you're gunning for an event that's just going to be held for track. Whereas if you're going for the Olympic Games, you're gunning for an entire experience. I tell people a lot of times too. It's this whole thing where becoming an Olympian is something, in world championships are like this too, but becoming an Olympian is something that nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
It's, it's arguably one of the biggest sporting events in the world, every 4 years.
Dude, just even being an Olympian is sharing such thin air.
Absolutely. And it doesn't really matter what sport or event, let's say for track and field, even if you're somebody who does badminton or table tennis, like being an Olympian with that means that you are literally, not only are you probably the best in your country, but you're probably within your entire sport, you're absolutely like within the 1%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're able to do that, especially in my sport, because the Olympic standard for my sport for shot put in professional shot putting, it goes up and up and up every single, not only Olympic cycle, but it seems like every year. The standard for things has blown up. Like I had mentioned early on at the beginning of this, it's the world of shot putting right now is the best it's ever been. We have superhumans throwing when it comes to, physicality, genetics, everything like that. But not only that, we are understanding the sport so much more than we ever have.
Well, not only that, like look at, what was it, where was it that like Kovac, Krauser, and Tom Walsh all three threw bombs?
Doha. In
Doha, right?
2019 last year, yeah.
Like, what the fuck do you mean that I went and threw 70 plus feet?
Yeah.
And I took fourth?
Absolutely. I mean, like I always look at it this way. My PB of 2172, 71.4 would have taken fifth, I think.
Fifth.
At that. And I mean, I've looked into
that
this.
throw has won many of Olympics.
That would have won the 96 Olympic Games. I mean, like it would have won a lot of Olympic Games. I feel really bad for, there's a man by the name of Darlan Romani from Brazil. And he threw 22.56, which if people don't understand what that means like 74 and some change, 74 feet and some change.
So far.
And he got fourth place. Didn't even get a medal.
Dude, no one's even talking about you.
That's the worst part. Like everybody felt so bad because the guy would have not only won any world championship ever, would have won any Olympic Games ever. I mean, there's like nothing that he wouldn't have won.
What do you think? What do you think makes the difference, like on that day, that everyone performs big?
Well, on that specific day for the 2019 games?
I've been around it, right?
Yeah.
I've been at competitions, whether Highland Games or track or any of it, right? There's days that like it doesn't click for anyone for some reason. There's nothing you can put your finger on. It's not like shit weather or any of that.
Absolutely.
Just no one has it.
Yeah. Yeah, we had mentioned that earlier when we were talking.
Right, and then there's other days that everyone's on fucking fire, and it doesn't make any sense. Of like, what's the variable between those two?
Well, I mean, obviously, periodization and peaking at a specific point.
Of course.
The science behind sports, we can go even that deep. The science behind sports in general is insane. But the periodization of being the best that you can be at a specific point, not only that, but for 6 specific throws, has become so perfected that people can get it right a lot of the time on the right day. That happened to be of epic proportions, of course. I mean, that's not...
Look, it's just
in
the wavelengths and polarity of things, this one clicked big.
For sure. And I think that, I got the chance to train with Tom Walsh out in New Zealand in February of this year through about March, right before the Roni season happened. Because I was out there to do about 3 meets in Australia. Which would have been... how badass would that have been?
I mean, it's like, I'm still nerdy about...
Of course.
You got to go throw in Iceland. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Cool. I mean, I got a call from my agent, Andy Stubbs, and he was just basically saying...
If you ever want to throw in Iceland, like I know Peter and them host track meets.
I would absolutely love to do that.
Yeah, because I could... If you get over there, like I know Hayes will put you up.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
I'll happily help.
Yeah, that's super cool. I would really love it. We'll talk post.
Yeah.
We'll talk post. But yeah, I mean, like you get these availabilities. This is the best part about throwing, I would say, for me. And I've looked at this a lot because for a guy like myself, I'll go and fucking train in a gym for 6 hours a day if I had to. Like, that kind of shit I love. But the best part about it, by far, is going to these countries, seeing these different cultures, meeting new people, to, like you said, throw a fucking rock. Like, what? Dude. Like what? How absurd is it? This is great that we're talking about this because me and Ryan talked about this. Ryan Whiting, my coach.
Ryan, please. We need to do a show.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll talk to him for sure. Like I said,
maybe we'll just travel through there. I'll pack my stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if we had to do that or make another trip,
we'll do it in the RV.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, that'd be even better.
Yeah, so
even
cool.
better. Yeah, I think he's getting an RV, so that would.
I think I'm gonna record one with my mom.
That would be kind of cool.
Well, I was thinking about it, right? And like, I want to talk about everything with her.
That's kind of
with
what I'm saying. Like how in depth that would be.
everything, and like
Yeah.
talk about my father passing away.
Yeah.
I want to talk about raising us as kids, all this type of shit, right? Because I think at some point I will wish I had that conversation.
Absolutely. Not only is that really just a great conversation to have, but it makes you look so inward. Like it's such an introspective thing. Like
Well, you can't fake being alive for 65 years.
absolutely. Absolutely. And like just for you, for example, like I said, like being able to see, who I was, what I've became,
Yeah.
how I could be better. I mean, this is your mother, you know what I
Right.
mean? She's seen you from when
Yeah,
you're
the
shitting
whole
your
thing,
diapers
right?
to now. You
Yeah,
know,
she's
it's like,
seen all the failures and
exactly.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So you could.
Yeah. So it's just that's crazy. But
Sorry, I sidetracked.
no worries. I mean, that's like I said, that's an important thing. I think that'd be a great podcast. I definitely tune in if it's any consolation.
Perfect. We got one.
But with Ryan, we were talking about how silly it is that we get to travel the world and get paid for it.
Yeah.
That's the best way. That's our job.
Paid for it.
To get paid to go and throw a rock because it's something that you have dedicated your craft to.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to get really good
I
at.
mean, and it's crazy. I mean, you see guys like Ryan and Tom and Joe and stuff. They're at the very top. They're the 1% of the 1%.
Right.
And these guys are making good money. You know what I mean? And I've heard some. I'm not going to say any numbers because I don't want to say.
Yeah, it's not important.
Well, of course, but I'm just saying. I mean, the numbers that I have heard, regardless of if they're true or not, it's insane.
Good,
that you get
man.
to do that, and that's kind of what.
At least it's worth At least it's worth the hours. It's all
Absolutely.
back pay.
Absolutely.
It's back pay for all the years no one gives a shit.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where you start. You start in the sport because you love it. It's not the NFL, it's not the NBA, it's not the MLB. You're not in it for these $1 million contracts. I mean, sprinters
no one's
and such
leaving
are.
throwing. Look, no one's leaving track and field with retirement fuck you money.
Well, I mean, unless you're like Usain Bolt.
One guy that we can name.
That's what I'm saying,
Right?
exactly.
There's
Other
enough
than,
dudes who leave the NFL with that type of money that we've never heard of.
in the NFL, if you play for 3 years, you start to have a pension.
Yeah.
So at that point, you're leaving the NFL with a good salary.
And the truth
then
is,
money
you
on
should.
top.
Look, that business makes so much fucking money
Oh my
based on those
gosh.
players' backs. They should be rewarded for
And
that.
not only that, but you leave the sport way worse than you do going into it. I mean,
and look, if that many people wanted to tune into track meets, you guys would get paid that amount.
Absolutely. And listen, I have no quarrels with that
Right.
whatsoever. If we had way higher viewership, then of course. But I mean, at this point, track has just a ways to go to get
Yeah,
there.
we're not
on that
paying
point.
the sports based on skill level.
Yeah, oh
if
my
we
gosh.
were, we'd stop paying baseball players for fuck's sake.
Or PGA guys would not be sponsored by Rolex or things like that. I mean, it's just one of those things. And like I said, you get into the sport because you love it and you love putting in the man hours, like I talked about. You love just like the grit and the grime. And I always told Ryan when I first started out, it was you almost get kind of dark. We had mentioned this earlier in our conversation when we were talking earlier. You get kind of dark. You get to a point where you're like, I'm just going to dig so deep and I'm just going to put so much into this. I'll break my leg. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be better for it. That's what you think. And then for me as an athlete, I have found so much growing from that, like moving on from this dark entity in my life that I feel like I need to be in. I need to be in this shit for me to be,
Good
on
at
top
this.
of the
Right,
podium.
right.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, a good part of that will benefit you.
I think it's really tricky to have anger as your driving force.
Of course.
It's a tough thing to really sustain because it just bleeds into too much of the rest of you.
Absolutely. And certain people find certain success with certain things. Me as an athlete, like you said, I tried that. I tried being that guy. I tried being somebody that I look back at and I don't like.
Yeah,
I don't
right.
like who I was. And more importantly, other people didn't as well. So I burned a
course
lot of bridges. I mean, this just
Yep.
from being a business owner.
Yeah, I wasn't the fucking most liked thrower. I'm a fucking lot.
Of course. And, a part of that, of course, is coming from the competitive nature that we just have. This bleeding
And
heart, wanting to be that way.
It's fucking King Kong against a bunch of other King Kongs.
sure.
Like, there's a certain amount of swagger in where you carry yourself that's part of the fucking
BDE,
gig.
like we were talking about.
Yeah,
that
it's
big
fucking
energy.
big dick energy big time walking into those rooms.
Absolutely. And that's a big part of it too. People just thinking like, well, if I just fucking out BDE them, then I'm
No,
gonna
but
be
like
the man,
part of a shot put competition, at least, or any of it, there's the face off in UFC, right? And it's that big serious stare down, and there's part of it that people take really fucking serious.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's having that the whole time you're competing.
Yeah.
It's walking around, and it's kind of sizing
For
everyone
sure.
up the whole fucking day.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, no one's talking about it, but that's what everyone's walking around doing is fucking
Absolutely.
stalking and pacing
Absolutely.
and moving this energy around.
Yeah.
And you can't sit and fucking cower.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go the other way from that aggressive, dominating energy, it has to be like Reese and sit there and play with a fucking Rubik's Cube
sure.
so no one knows what to do with
For sure.
it.
And to piggyback off that, for me, you get to a point when you're young where you are so concerned when you're at meets with what they're fucking
Of course,
doing.
right?
How far are they throwing? What are they thinking
What
about?
are they doing?
They're sitting there on a Rubik's Cube. Fuck him. I can do, you know, he's not going to win this. I'm going to win this.
Right.
And I could tell people right now, when you get to the top, when you start seeing these guys, they are all, like Reese is, in their own world. They don't give a shit what you're doing.
Don't even care.
They have put so many man hours and so many throws into this that they know exactly what they do when they step in that ring.
Yeah, I mean, at the top level, and especially, like, you know, whenever I was throwing far from my shit, like, it was, I didn't care what anyone else threw.
No.
I'm going to throw my best, and those cards are going to fall.
Absolutely. It transitions.
It's taking fucking fourth with 70 whatever feet by the Brazilian dude, right? Like, fuck, I'd still go home stoked.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
a monster throw to have in your career.
And let's be honest. I mean, he's from Brazil. He probably was so revered going home with that kind of performance because, to be honest with you, I don't even remember the last time a Brazilian shot putter in particular made a final.
Right.
Let alone fourth place with a national
monster
record.
throw.
Yeah, would have won ever.
Yeah.
But it becomes, the whole thing, like with that especially, it's so much less of you versus them as it is you versus you.
Always you versus
It's
you.
always you versus you. But people don't know that.
So,
you know?
which is weird for me, right? Because I've competed in a lot of things, and whether that's, you know, at least Highland Games, track and field, those things, it's a you versus you with a trick to make you think you're competing with people.
Of course.
We're just sharing the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas I've never competed in anything that was like a direct combat. Football's about as close, but it's a team-oriented goal.
Absolutely.
But even tennis, right? Like tennis is a weird thing to compete in because I need to know how you play.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
And like reacting to another person live. I've never competed in a thing like that. So fucking MMA's got to be wild.
Oh,
right?
I mean, we talked about how visceral that is as well. I mean, because a lot of that goes into MMA as well. I mean, you talk about, you know, having to know patterns. You know, are they going to go to the right? If they pivot, are they going to go to the left? Are they going to jab? Are they going to, you know, hook? What are they doing in particular styles?
Because
and things like that?
as creatures, we will run the same pattern.
Absolutely, we will. No matter how much you train. I was talking about this with somebody recently. This was mainly about throwing techniques. It's funny how you can see people who start off with a particular technique, no matter how much they try to like bang out with a hammer, like just trying to get that particular thing out of their throw, there'll always be a little bit of what they originally did in that throw. You could look at anybody that's ever done it, and they all have it. And so for MMA especially, that's what people look at, because at that point with a combat sport, if you're going to do a little bit even of what you're doing before, all I need to do is get my foot in the door, and then I'm there. You know, then I've got you. It's like a python ready to attack. You know?
Speaking of that, I love all of like the little intricacies that different athletes have, and like, you know, Reese having a heel turn.
Absolutely.
Out of the back, right? That's like, if I'm 100 feet away, I know that they're throwing shot put.
Yeah.
They're all doing the same thing
course.
unless someone's gliding, right?
Yeah.
But then like once you learn the sport and you can see it, like you realize how unique what Adam Nelson did.
Oh my gosh.
Like you can't teach that to anyone else. No one else gets to do that.
No. I mean, you look at even like what Tom does. Tom has a pivoted right foot back, and it's because he's able to generate so much out of the back that he uses that to his advantage.
And no one else can.
Most people don't know how to do it.
No.
They just think, oh, if I just do this, I can just whip out of the back. And it's like, no. There's so many things you have to establish first and foremost.
And what's funny is when someone at that level has success at it, when you see it at the younger age of people trying to mimic it.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's the YouTube theory. You know what I mean? You know, kids will just watch somebody and then just try to like 100% be like, I'm just going to look like him. It was like that guy that talked to you earlier about Ryan Krauser.
Right.
Oh, look how slow he's going.
He's not slow. You're incorrect.
You have zero idea, not only of what he's doing, but what he's done to get to that point.
One of my favorite Krauser videos, I show people that like don't know throwing.
Yeah.
And don't know like what monsters elite throwers are, is him doing a snatch, and he's doing like 150 kilo snatch, so it's like 330, and it's from a hip,
Yeah.
And then he slams it and catches it on the bounce and re-racks it.
Yeah.
And it's a thing we've all done.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're dribbling it because we're lazy. It just so
Just
happens.
slam it harder and then bounce it back
If
up
we didn't
to- yeah.
start doing it as anything other than, well, it works.
Absolutely.
And so, but to think that you're unbracing 330 and then catching it
Yeah.
and then reloading it, like the amount of force
Yeah.
that takes on the system that you're not even thinking about as part of what you're doing.
For sure. And that's kind of the thing that, throwers, Ryan coined this term, we're such ballistic creatures.
Yeah.
So, I get a lot of comments on the way that I bench press. So I bench press at 597.
Yeah, but you bench like a thrower.
I bench like a thrower, which means that I bounce it.
Yeah, of course.
I bounce it, and I use leg drive, and I get a ton of comments on that.
Yeah, it's because people are stupid.
It is people are stupid, but this is the thing.
Well,
this
they
is
just don't know.
Oh yeah, we should.
They don't. Well, they don't understand
Yeah.
that you're not doing the bench press to get a bigger bench total.
No.
You're benching to throw a 16-pound ball farther.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is acceleration. So you
Absolutely.
have to move the weight as fast as humanly possible with your entire body working together.
Absolutely. I mean, I have paused benched 260.
Right.
So it's like, I can do those.
He
and
means
those,
kilos.
Yeah, 260 kilos. I apologize. Yes, which is I think 580 or something like that.
Fucking
Yeah.
Christ.
So, but I've I have done.
That's so strong. Jesus Christ.
Thank you. This chest right here has done me a lot of service in my life. I'll
Dude.
tell you that much.
Yeah, it's
I actually have a funny story. When I was a kid,
just fucking casual thrower strength is so gnarly.
when I was a kid, because I've always kind of been pretty good at bench pressing. That's just
Right.
kind of been my thing. That and deadlifting. I've always just been able to pull, yank a shit ton off the ground. But when I was a kid, I had a larger chest because I would work out more and like I said, I would bench press relatively often just because
You're a
find
kid getting into weights.
well, you have newbie gains, so you
Yeah.
find so much you're like, oh, look at all this benefit from doing this. Like all these athletic endeavors go up just from strength alone, just from the fact that you're even in the gym, you could become a better
Right.
athlete. So I used to have this, kind of barrel chest when I was a kid, and I used to have kids when I'm not even joking, like 14 years old, would tell me that I looked like a 35-year-old man because I had this barrel chest with a little bit of chest hair
An old
coming
man
in.
cruising around.
Yeah, I was like a 35-year-old
Oh,
man with
man.
this puffed out chest. So they used to call me
That's so
a 30-year-old
funny.
man. So that was kind of a funny thing. But to go back to what I was saying, there are so many things that throwers can do. Like I said, depending on what endeavor you want to do. If I wanted to do that, if my main goal was to take a weight and pause it on my chest until I had a command
Yeah.
to press the weight, and then if I had to do a squat and a deadlift and a meet, I would train that way.
Of course you
But
would.
because of the fact that I am moving so fast and I'm trying to create, this is one of the biggest
There's
things.
no reason for you to try to isolate anything.
No.
It's a mistake.
For sure. And there's one thing that young kids and people who are less experienced, or I should say less understanding of the sport, don't understand that the majority of the throw, almost all of it, is stretch reflex.
Yep.
So for me, bench pressing with a bounce is because I'm trying to come down, and by the time I'm rebounding off my chest, or my keg, my power
Yeah.
belly, which I like to call it, when I'm coming off of that, I'm trying to create stretch like I would be coming through like a throw.
Exactly.
So I'm coming through trying to hammer it. 597 or whatever. I'm trying to move it fast.
Right.
It's not a rep. For me, in the gym anymore, it's not about reps that are like grinders.
No, it doesn't
That
benefit
really
you at
doesn't
all.
benefit me much anymore at all.
No, if you're a thrower, and let's say what we want to measure is your squat to be beneficial to throwing,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be way better off being able to move 308
For sure.
at a meter a second
Absolutely.
than you are benching, squatting 700 pounds,
Yeah.
and it taking 3 seconds to do that rep.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Give me the fucking move that thing at a meter a second.
For sure.
All day.
For sure. Yeah. And that's kind of one of the things with Ryan's programming for me, we do a lot of trap bar banded deadlifts, and
Yep.
we do a lot of Hatfield squats. Because for me, throwing wise, if I can do both those and I'm moving good weight really fucking fast, that's when I'm at my best.
But you also take away, so doing those lifts, especially Hatfield squats, you take away a lot of what the risk from
100%.
squatting is.
100%.
And since you're not training for your total,
Absolutely.
we want the most response. All you're trying to do is get stimulus out of the legs and hips for hip drive and explosion. So
Absolutely.
loading the spine's not what you need to do as much as
No.
So why wouldn't you have the hands for stability, unrisk it, like fuck.
I mean, if I can Hatfield squat, if I could have a Hatfield on my back and I can have like 350 kilos, so 770 pounds, if I can have that much on there and I can, if I'm in a Hatfield, sit back, load my glutes and hamstrings and fire through that fucker, like you said, a meter per second, that I am going to be way better off throwing a 16-pound ball, by the way. That's a big
and
that's a
you
big
can get
loss.
more in a good athletic position
Absolutely.
in a Hatfield squat, whereas like you repping leg press explosively isn't the same because you're in this really compromised, broken position.
For sure. And I mean, I've gone through so many different training styles when it comes to quad dominant, hamstring dominant. And for me, things where I load my posterior chain, which is like the basis of athletic movement. Anybody who's an elite athlete has a very, very strong and very, very pliable.
Yeah, it ought to look like a fucking centaur.
Yeah, exactly. A posterior chain. Exactly. Huge butt. I mean, I have a massive donkey behind me. You know what I mean? I got an absolute dump truck back there. No, but that's the thing is like when you see elite athletes, that's where you're going to find the most benefit is having that really strong posterior chain. So for me, that's where I have found the most benefit for me. But to piggyback off of that, I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to throwing per se, but also just American sports in general in this country, one of the biggest problems we have is we are so hyper-focused, blinders like a racehorse, on how strong you are. How strong are you? If you could be a soccer player with big legs, it'll be like, how much you squat? And it's like, why does that matter?
Well, it's because it doesn't matter.
Well, to them it does.
But what it is,
when in reality,
it's the only measuring stick they have to understand.
It's what they can do to measure themselves against
Well,
you.
because someone they know lifted.
For sure.
Right?
For
and
sure.
like so everyone knows benching 135 or 225.
Yeah. Plates.
And so,
per se.
yep,
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And then, especially like once you get to World's Strongest Man or something like that, it just doesn't translate to regular people, the amount of actual weight they can lift.
Yeah.
So that's why they switched the implements to being refrigerators.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
a car. It's because people are like, fuck, I know a car's heavy.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's what makes those guys so impressive to me is that's real life strength. I can legit.
It is, but at the same point, strongman has become its specific strength.
Yeah, of course they're going to have like sagittal movements. They're going to have up and down. But I mean,
but not even that. Like you're training for that specifically. Like a car walk is different than doing a yoke.
Log press.
Yeah.
Yes, of
and
course.
So
of course.
You're training for still a specific thing, whereas like you're still a specialist.
Absolutely, and I think that's why they've made like specific events. Like they'll have worlds or a world championship for the log press, world championship for the deadlift. Like they have certain things for
pro level strongmen are so fucking strong.
It's insane, and I was going to talk about this for a second. I tell people a lot of times like some of my strength numbers and such, and they'll be enamored per se. And I always tell them, well, there's stronger people even in my sport than me, and people do not comprehend. There are always somebody stronger. Even if they're not on the circuit, there's always somebody stronger. There can be some guy, it's like Iron Bibby, the guy who just came out of that small island out, I don't know where it's off. I think it's off the Pacific coast or somewhere. But he's a guy that's like incredibly strong overhead and stuff like that, but he just kind of came out of nowhere. My point is,
I don't know anything about this guy.
Yeah, I think his name's Iron Bibby. He's like
strongman?
Yeah, he's a strongman. Yeah, he was at the world championship for the log press. Very strong overhead, but I think he was at I want to say he was at World's Strongest Man last year.
All right.
I want to say because that's his thing. I don't know what country he's from. He's from an island, I believe. Regardless, what I'm trying to get at is they just found out about this guy. There are probably, like off the coast of Africa or some of these countries where it's a little bit more untapped, there's probably people that are ungodly strong.
Even weirder, right? There's definitely people, there's got to be people out there that, let's just say, have the aptitude for strength.
For sure.
Because there is.
Yeah.
And then it's so fucking cool when someone who has the aptitude for it, say Hapthor.
For sure.
Then finds the thing.
Yeah.
Like, how many people don't ever figure out the thing that they were supposed to be great at?
I would say
99.999%. Most people don't try everything. No. Like, so who fucking knows?
No. They go from whether they go to college or high school, they get a job, go to a cubicle, they're just like, this is the way it goes.
Right. Like, and remember that there was a time, at some point, we were both terrible at shot put.
Absolutely.
when we
Absolutely.
started, just like everyone is when
Absolutely.
they started things.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think about it too, like carpentry, I'm atrocious at. But I fucking should be. I don't ever do it.
For sure.
Why wouldn't I be bad
Yeah.
at it?
But you can be great at it.
You could be.
Of course.
You know, I may not have the aptitude for someone who takes to it easier,
Absolutely.
but it's still a thing you'd learn over time, just like any other skill.
And you have much greater aptitude than somebody like
Yeah,
Hathor,
yeah,
who's
right. And so,
450 pounds for strongman.
right. And so,
You know?
that guy who's got the aptitude
Yeah.
to carry that size, to have a skeleton
Yeah.
that'll support 460,
For sure.
like, and then he has the work ethic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I was going to say after you had mentioned that, like the aptitude. It's not only the physicality of it, like, because he's a humongous individual. And
Humongous.
He has ungodly amount of muscle mass on that frame. But you look at a guy like Eddie Hall, and it starts up here. It
Sure.
starts up here. You know, for a guy like that, he talked about it after he did the 500K deadlift, which,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at that time they had talked about was nobody could do that.
Impossible,
You know?
sure.
And these guys, they reach down really deep. And it's like the human body to me is such an impressive vessel. It's so impressive to me that this thing up here, you know, the brain is a large organ, but for that to control this, and not only that, but for this to flip the switch
And to hold all my memories and smells.
Yeah, that's
and
what I'm
all
saying.
the
Yeah.
words that I've ever learned. Like, and it's mushy and gray, and I can push my finger through it. What the fuck is going on?
Isn't
in
that
there?
insane? I
Yeah.
mean, it's just like just like a mush of wrinkles that are like, hey, no, we're like the smartest thing, you know?
And like with Eddie or anything, like with his deadlift, like that. I mean, yeah, willing to die for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And we talked about like what's his name? What's the UFC fighter we talked about that had mouthed? I'm willing to die. I keep on saying it's Udesanya, but it's something like that, right?
Isanya.
Adesanya or something like that. Yeah, something like that. But
Probably
he
fucked
had
that
mouthed. We apologize to whoever that is, but
It was cool when you did it.
Yeah, he had mouthed before the round. I don't know who he was fighting. That he was prepared to die.
Prepared to die for it.
And this is where I talk about like with human performance and the capacity for humans to do really, really rad shit.
It's such a silly thing to say, right? Like that prepared to die for it when we're talking about shot put or Highland Games. Or
Of course.
Fucking right.
Of course.
Or strongman.
Of course.
But at the same time, like, yo, that's real.
I look
And
at
like
it more
I can think back on specific moments in my Highland Games career. One of them being in Scotland. It was my second World Championships that I had won. So 2014 in Scotland, and we're 8 events in, and there's a half point between me and Dan.
Okay.
And we're going into the heavyweight, and the heavyweight for distance has been a good event for me. It's good for Dan too. He's fucking good at everything.
When you're at that
And
point, you have to be.
I just remember that day. Like I had got off by myself for a moment and had my headphones in, and I'm just getting my shit together. And I just remember like walking around and being like, "If you're gonna beat me today, you're fucking bleeding for it."
For sure. And that's the thing is that's
I
also
am
say.
fucking prepared to die for this one.
Yeah, and it's the concept of being basically telling yourself. Like it's not. I'm not going into to blows with this guy. But
No.
what I am doing is I am willing for like to have my temple of a body crumble to the ground.
Yep.
For this because I have given everything for it.
And not only that, right? Like even the best part about that is, especially as a thrower, like when you know you're that guy who fucking competes, right?
Yeah.
Because, dude, we've all seen it. We know guys that throw bombs in fucking practice and can't throw.
Yeah.
That train like Tarzan, throw like Jane shit, dude. And fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always been a gamer. That's
for
one
sure,
of the things I've always brought to the table.
Yeah.
Like, in the heat of the moment,
Yeah.
I have another gear.
Absolutely. Yeah, I lost that for a bit. I had that in college, really. In college, I would say for the collegiate ranks, I was really good at that. I went to multiple national championships, ended up competing, being an All-American 3 times.
Hell yeah.
Second team All-American, I don't know, however many times. But, like, when it came down to it for me, I went to a national championship as a freshman at USC, which at the time I was the only freshman there. It was literally juniors and
Yeah, I went
seniors.
to none.
I was juniors and
I
seniors.
was not invited.
And I was the only guy there that was a freshman. And I went into that. You just get to a point where you're like, there's no way. There's no fucking way. I don't care who you are, what you've done. It's not more than me, and I'm gonna come out of this with what I want.
Right?
You know,
Man, that's the whole backing of the always party bit with the brand.
Absolutely.
And it was that was the thing that I remembered saying, like, before getting in the ring when it mattered, or before taking throws, and it was like, all right, let's fucking party.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, that's what all the reps were for. That's what knowing.
It's a celebration. It's a celebration of everything you've given.
Now, would you ever do anything specific to training to try to dial that in?
The always party part?
The stuff.
You know, it's particularly, I have, because with Ryan, it's been great. We have trained for specific things. So for like a world championship, let's say, you're going to go to a warm-up track. You're going to take probably stands, whatever sort of, like, if you're going to do a wheel, which is like a half turn, or South African, yeah. And you usually do that out on the warm-up track, and you'll do whatever you have to do. But then you don't go and start throwing rotationally into the ring for maybe another half an hour after that. Once you get to the call room and once they take you into the stadium, you may walk a mile till you get to the thing, till you get to the ring. So for us, we do this thing where we'll take throws, stands, wheels, souths, and then Ryan will be like, go ahead and take a lap. So we'll just walk a lap, and it's like you just take your time, get mentally here, centered. I'm here. I'm only thinking about that ring, those throws. I'm here. It's me right now. But you've got to practice things like that for that part, the always party, to be able to happen.
Yeah.
So things like
there's
that.
There's got to be a confidence in knowing, like, inside that this thing performs when I say fucking perform.
Absolutely.
And I can count on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And not like, maybe it will.
Well,
I hope it happens. Like,
for sure.
We're fucking going.
For sure. I mean, there was that first Diamond League that I ended up winning, which was amazing. I went into that meet. That may be one of the only meets, I'm trying to think back, maybe in my life, where I went into that meet absolutely always party.
Fuck yeah.
In the sense of just being like, I'm not leaving here without winning.
Dude, just that feeling of like, come fucking get
absolutely, it. Absolutely. You're going to have to take it from my dead hands.
Come
you know what
fucking
I mean?
get it, boys.
And that's kind of where it was.
It.
Yeah, it's where it was. I was in the homeland, so I was in Italy and Rome, and it was just like, this is the crowd. I had talked to my mom. It's crazy. Talked to my mom about it. Like, before the indoor season even started, I go, man, if I could just make that Diamond League in Rome, I'm coming out of there with that fucking win. Like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, dude.
And I remember this year with COVID, there was only one meet, only one Diamond League for shot put. There was one early in Norway that was just 2 guys, so it didn't really count. But there was one full shot put 12-man section meet, and it was in Rome. And my agent, I had just come off of throwing my PB of 2172, and my agent calls me. He goes, hey, it's a go. I'm going to get you in. And I go, this is what the fuck I've been working for. This is it.
Yeah.
And so I hunkered down. I had like 15 meets over 21 up until that point.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm going, like, I had so much confidence going into that meet that because of the fact that I had mentally prepared that once I stepped in that ring that it was all mine, that once I started, there was no going back from there. And not only that, but somebody would have had to have done something very, very impressive to beat me. I ended up not throwing as far as I wanted to. I had a foul around 22, which was awesome. But I believe, for me, because the next best guy was my buddy Peyton Oderdahl, who threw 2085, which is about 68, almost 69 feet. But I believe, because there was a guy, his name's Leonardo Fabri, he's Italian, who will be my compatriot once I get my citizenship and such. But he had a throw that he had fouled that was maybe like 2150-ish or so. But I remember watching that throw and going, like, as I didn't see him foul, I go, oh, I'm going to throw farther than that. Like, there was just no part of me that was like, oh shit, now I got to have a big one. It was like, no. If he had thrown 2210, I was like, I got to throw 2211. Right. Like, it was there. I had prepared. That whole year had essentially been prepared for that meet.
Right. And so that was your world championship.
That was my world championships. I knew once I talked to my agent when that was in the year where we had scheduled that was going to be where I ended. Because of the fact that there was a meet in Doha, which would have been cool, about a month or 2 or 3 weeks later, that had a shot put section, but they ended up canceling it. So once that happened, I knew that was it. So for me, that was my world championship. That was my Olympic Games that ended up getting canceled. So for me, I gave everything for it. But that always party mentality was absolutely with me at that moment. And I think, to go back to what the question you had asked me, I think because I had mentally prepared for it, most of my training, I would say probably about 2 months out from that meet, was always party.
Yeah, so like one of the things I did to kind of try to dial it in is like, so the closer I got to like world championship season, so once I'd got into that peak, for me, like I'd go out and throw, like probably 2 days during the week that I would go throw. I would throw all 9 events, which I never do.
For sure.
But I'm only allowed 4 throws.
Yeah.
I don't get any warm up throws. I get to touch the implement
Yeah.
and throw it 4 times.
Yeah.
And I need to know that I can fucking hit a big one.
Yeah.
In 4 cold.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'll get it done.
For sure. For sure. The best practice, the training throw that I've had, which I in no way like to talk about training distances and
sure,
such. But I had a practice throw of 22-25, which is the best I've ever thrown a comp ball, 16-pound shot put. But the most important thing to me, to relate to what you're saying, the most important thing to me about that was that I did it within 6.
Oh, shit.
So I had taken stands, souths, 2 or 3 nons, and it was like,
so just like a regular comp.
I got into a rhythm, like I said, those last 2 months, because that was, funny enough, that day that I threw 22-25, I believe when we looked at it, would have been either the day of the prelims for the Olympic Games or the day of the final. So I can't remember. So it was like we set that up almost perfectly, in the sense that, like, if the Olympic Games were this year, that would have been in the final.
Nice.
You see what I'm saying? So on that day. So it would have been amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, it got to a point where those last 2 months, I not only did, but I wanted to. I made it an emphasis. I made it a point to have my first 6 throws. Actually, it was more my first 3, because if anybody knows in professional shot putting, if you don't get it in your first 3, especially in the qualifying round, you have no more throws.
That's true. Yeah.
So you have to get 3 more from your first 3. So for me, it became, if I can just train and have these first 3 throws at least be, really fucking solid. So if I could have them within the 70 mark, so if I could be about 2130 to about 2150, so about 70 to 71 feet, somewhere in there, I will always make a final. I will always be in the mix to make the final at least. And then if I could get it within 6, if I could throw 22 within 6, you're probably going to be in the running for a medal most years. Last year was, of course, an anomaly. It was one of those things where
just freak show, man. It just happens.
I mean, because I think
Because look, if they've had world championships and it turned out low numbers, this is the other end of that spectrum.
Absolutely,
you get both.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So it's happened before. I mean, it's totally happened before. You look at the 2004 games that Adam Nelson won, which I'm sure you've talked to him about.
Yeah, he won. He threw what, 69?
Yeah, 21-0 or something, or 21-16 or something.
Tied that guy. It's one of the worst fucking stories in sports.
It is, and you know what's funny to relate to that? I was actually at a junior nationals in 20. That must have been 20. When did he get that medal? 2013.
Yeah.
2013 or so,
At
and
a
I
fucking
felt
airport Burger King.
I remember feeling. Well, because they did a ceremony for him at that or at that national championship.
Right.
But I remember feeling so bad. I remember thinking,
dude,
man, you look at not only the glory to have your name on top of the podium, waving to the crowd with your national anthem at the Olympic Stadium in Athens.
Dude, that's
Greece.
the things I've talked about it a bunch. It's one thing if we're going to talk about like what he lost out on sponsor money or what he lost out on. All right, so anyone who doesn't know the Adam Nelson story, let me run this back real quick. So Adam Nelson is going to his 3rd Olympic Games in Athens. So this is 12 years as a professional shot putter at the top level, and Adam is throwing fucking bombs. So he opens up first round throw and throws 69-10 or 69-11, whatever it is. This big fucking throw. Fouls his second throw, fouls his third throw, goes into the finals. He's still got the leading marks. Now he's the last thrower because they reseed it.
Yeah.
Guy from Belarus hits a big throw and ties Adam. Then Adam fouls, and so now he's on his final throw, and because he's got a tie with the guy from Belarus, they go to your second best throw.
Yeah.
So the Belarusian guy now technically has the lead.
Yeah, because he had thrown like 69 low or
Right.
something in another throw. And
so-
I think I think Adam had that first throw and then 4 fouls. So his 6th round,
Yeah,
he basically had like the last chance.
It's bottom of the 9th, World Series.
Yeah, 2 outs.
2 outs. And
3-2 count. Yeah, it's like,
you need a fucking grand slam to win the ball
sure,
game,
for sure.
or strike this dude a fastball.
Yeah.
Right? Like whatever it is,
Exactly.
it's that
Either
it's
way,
that
whoever's gonna win.
pressure.
For sure.
And then it's not that pressure because there isn't a fucking World Series next year. They only do it every 4 years.
Exactly.
And you're at the end of
I was
your
gonna
career.
And not only
And it's
that,
your third fucking one.
third one, but it's also
In
at the
Athens, at the original
Olympic
shot put
Stadium.
place.
That's
Right?
what
Like,
I'm saying.
the fucking gravity
I
of
don't
it.
even know when
Dude,
they'll have that again.
Right, never.
You know?
And then he throws a bomb.
Oh, it's huge.
And hangs one over 71 or something
Huge.
like
Yeah,
that.
I think it would have clearly won by like almost 2 feet. Like it
Right.
was huge.
And he's called a foul on it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's clearly a foul.
Yes.
Unfortunately, but you know, in the moment, because
You
I've
fucking
had,
hit it.
well, I've had these moments before where you take a throw and because you're moving so fast, and the way that he fouled, so he basically people need to understand that there's the level surface of the shot put ring, and then right outside of it there's a lip
Yep.
to keep it, and there's like an elevated surface about maybe an inch or two, and then no, it's probably just an inch, but then there's another flat surface. So he came out and flat surface. So he felt, I just reversed it.
Never
It's
realized
fine.
he caught it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so he, was bleeding heart, like,
Of
I didn't
course.
foul. And I mean, it's the Olympic Games, you're gonna win.
Yeah.
And for what was it? I don't know, 7 or 8 years. He had
So
just
8 years, right? Like down the road, the Belarusian guy, they can go back and retest your drug test samples, your urine, for 8 years with the Olympics.
Yeah.
So they go back and test the Belarusian sample, and he fucking pops.
Yeah.
And so Adam gets awarded this gold medal at a Burger King at the fucking Atlanta airport.
I hate to laugh, but it's
so
absurd. It's laughable.
It's
That's
so
what it
absurd.
is.
The IOC is this.
Absolutely.
Fucked. And then,
Because they're not that way about everything else,
and so they,
which is the funniest part.
all of this that he got cheated out from, right? Because this guy beat him was dirty.
Yeah.
And like, fuck, man, I'd be bitter.
Yeah. And like you said,
And not only that, so and then back to where I was going with this. So that's the Adam Nelson story of just this fucking gut wrench. But it's one thing about what he lost out on money or financials or being able to do speaking engagements or what a gold medal brings to your fucking name.
for sure.
For
Yeah.
all those years.
Absolutely.
But you stole the national anthem from him on a fucking podium
Yep.
at the Olympics, man.
Yep.
And
That's
he's
what I
been
think
on the
about.
podium 3 times
Yeah.
with a silver.
The thought of I know.
Fuck you.
The thought of the mental image of being on top of the podium, top above everybody else. They're playing your anthem.
Dude, I
You're
can get
on
weird
hand
about
over
it.
heart.
I can
know,
get weird
I
about it
know.
right now.
I know, so can I, because you get so emotional about it. You're like, that means more to me than the money. I'm gonna get money in other avenues by winnings and sponsorships and such, because you're
But
still
there's
an Olympics.
only one way to get that.
Of
moment.
course, because I'm still an Olympic silver medalist, but there's no way to get back the feeling of being like, this is what I've done. This is what I've worked my fucking
I committed
ass
my life
off.
to a thing, and it fucking
I went from
worked on the
someplace
day
to
it
Athens,
mattered.
Georgia. Yeah, then to go to Athens, Greece. Everything came down to the wire. I fucking did it. I get my name. They raise my flag. They say my name.
And he's got 2 silvers. Like, you've been
That's
so.
what I'm saying. He's
fuck
been there.
me.
Yeah, he's been there. I mean, luckily, the next year he ends up winning the world title, so I guess maybe it alleviated at the moment, maybe a little bit. But
the world title in track, as athletes, we know that's the one that really matters because it's still a track meet.
absolutely,
Right?
Absolutely.
The Olympics is the experience, like
Of
you
course,
said.
of
It's
course.
winning the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is the show.
It's similar to strongman, right? That like everyone within the strongman community knows that the Arnold Classic is the heavy show.
absolutely.
So whoever wins the Arnold, you got a real fucking argument that you're the strongest human alive.
Absolutely. That's what I've heard. I've
World's
heard,
Strongest Man is a TV show.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard.
And I'm not
Arnold is
saying
like,
the weights
yeah.
aren't real and the guys aren't competing, but you're filming a TV show.
Yeah,
So there's a different goal at stake than
sure.
determining who's the strongest human alive.
for sure. Yeah, and in that particular endeavor, especially with things like that, I mean, you want to talk about like combat sports possibly being life or death. That's really life or death. I mean, to give your all for a show that's not your world championship is insane to me. That means almost more.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's insane. That'd be like in track.
Fucking myth of the Olympics, man.
That'd be like
fucking Olympics are wild.
in track. It would be like if I went to a Diamond League per se. Let's say I went to a Diamond League because they have one in Morocco sometimes.
Yeah.
That meaning more than the World Championship. It's like it's just unheard of.
Right.
So for that sport, it's very, very particular, or it's intriguing, I should say, that is what means so much. But like that sport it's such an intriguing endeavor.
Yep.
Like I had mentioned, the human performance has always been something that's always had a piece of my heart, like something that I've always wanted to get into. And so seeing people at the very, very top, it's bonkers to me what those guys do.
Man, and for me, and so you're lucky enough to know a few guys in your realm.
Yeah.
And like I've gotten lucky enough to meet a couple guys in various realms.
Absolutely.
Right,
yeah.
across a bunch of different
Absolutely.
things. And no one's normal.
No. Even in my sport, no one's normal.
Anyone who has captured a world title is fucking bonkers.
Oh my gosh. We had talked about this stuff,
just
the
how this
mindsets and
works.
stuff of these people. We were talking about this upstairs earlier. What makes these guys tick to me is sometimes it's not scary. It's just kind of a weird thing. Like you're like, that's what makes you who you are, and that's what makes you actually go.
Most people will never understand obsession.
Yeah, it's like this
An obsession with a
tank
physical thing
Yeah.
goes such a different way because of the amount of hours it takes to perfect it, and then the ups and downs that come from trying to perfect it of what body weight I throw at, and then that can change over the course of your career because of your age change. And like it's obsession fighting the clock, fighting
That's
everything,
what I was going to get into
right?
next.
Like,
It's obsession, and you had made this statement earlier, like just banging that hammer. Like I'll just bend it back. It's fine. If I'm giving all of myself and I get a tweak, or if I get something, let me just wrench it back and I'll get back. Or like I had mentioned, like with the patella thing, like if I just give it a little bit of time, do rehab on it, I'm going to get back. I'll just bandage it up.
Yep.
I don't
or
care.
I'll deal with it.
Yeah. Just make me a giant tampon full of
the one
thick
thing
wraps
I'm
and
aware
things.
of, like from that mentality, which man I have had for a really long time.
Yeah.
Is anyone who feels that way hasn't been in real pain.
Oh my gosh.
for long enough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Fortunately,
that spirit has broken right out of me.
Oh my gosh. See, fortunate enough for me, I have been lucky enough where I haven't had anything super, super serious, and I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure.
But for somebody like you, I can only with the story you were telling me about with your knee. I mean, I could only imagine.
She wasn't cool, man.
But you want to talk about what makes people tick? I mean, you were for years. How long was that process of the knee, of complete reconstruction like that?
So I tore a meniscus in like March of 2016, and so my plan at that point was like, the knee's going.
Yeah.
It had kind of got to a point where like I couldn't finish throws.
Yeah.
I could still get it done, but like it's never going to get better again.
Yeah.
It is just going to slowly decline its way out.
For sure.
So that's 2016. My plan is the end of 2016. I'm going to go in and do ACL surgery, and then I'm going to take a year off.
Yeah.
And then 2018, I'm coming in hot.
Which is like what everybody thinks.
Yeah, that was the
thinks,
plan.
I can just, let me just get
I'd
back.
take a full year off and relax and focus and train and like rehab and come in ready to go.
Well, think about it. Even the most serious of injuries, you see a guy like in the NFL, or I mean, you had mentioned it was your ACL, but like guys who have like, let's just say you just completely tear all the ligaments in your knee. I mean, with the type of medical professionals we have now, even the longest would be about a year. And this,
I had never considered anything other than.
Of course.
It's going to be surgery. I'll rehab and get fine. And I don't mind rehab. I can do that.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. If anything, it's helping my psyche. It's like I feel like I'm doing something. Yep. Exactly, yeah.
And so that was the first surgery that came at the end of that season would have been like November-ish of
2016.
2016. So they had found a donor, donor ACL that matched. So we did that surgery.
Was this the cadaver thing you mentioned? Okay, yeah.
And so then it just went bad from there. And so from 2016 till April 2018, Is that right?
Realistically, let's just say it was just. Let's just
No, April 2019. I had it done.
I was gonna say. So
Yeah.
that says like 2.5 years.
Yeah, so 2.5 years. I had 9 knee surgeries.
2.5 years. This to go back to what I was saying, making people tick. 2.5 years of you fighting it, and it may not have been the entire time, but at least probably a good 2-year portion of that of you fighting it to get back.
Yeah.
You want to talk about strength sports and sports at the highest level? That's what makes people tick.
Man, but as much as like I agree with you and I like that, and it's things for people to hear. What the fuck else do I do? Not do that?
Yeah.
I don't have another gear.
Of course.
It's not like I had to
Of course.
force myself into that.
I would have done the same thing
because
there's no part of me that ever thinks about that and be like, oh, I would have just given up.
Like, what do you mean not do the rehab and not stay in it through all the surgeries? Because that's all I know how to do.
That had been such a huge part of your life for a long time. For like you said, like
right. It's like, okay, cool. We now have this to do. This is the job. We'll do that.
For sure. That is my job.
Let's fix the leg. We know how to do this. We have all these tools. We can train. Cool.
Exactly. Like I said, I would have done the exact same thing. There's no part of me that thinks about that in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, that kind of sounded shitty.
It was real weird. Like at some point, because it clicked, and I realized at some point that like, oh, I'm never gonna throw again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like at some point it was like we're not rehabbing to get back to that. We're just trying to get normal.
It's life.
Yeah. And that's weird, man. It was weird because like I didn't go out on my terms.
Yeah, and that's you always want to go down swinging.
Fucking no one does, dude.
I always tell people like, you've seen
none of us are leaving on a good day.
You ever seen Full Metal Jacket where the guy's got the two? I forget what he's got. He's got like two M14s or something, and he's running. And he's just gunning.
Yeah.
And he's like, if I go down, this is how I'm going. I'm running at these buildings, just shooting the buildings. Everybody wants to go down that way.
Of course.
Everybody does. You always want to go out on your own terms. You want to go down swinging, and sometimes life gets in the way, and that's just kind of what it is.
Dude. Yeah, and it's
the funniest, or not the funniest, I should say, the most serious aspect of that was you were so dedicated to what you were doing, and it became so much a part of your life, that knee thing, that you were at some point like, if I gotta just cut it off, I'm just,
Well, I couldn't do it. I'd reached a point of frustration and pain with it that I was miserable.
Yeah.
I was fucking miserable, and dude, it's one thing at least having the next surgery, right, and having a timeline of recovery.
Yeah.
I at least believed that there was a light at the end of the tunnel in 8 months.
For sure.
In a year.
For sure.
And then there had reached a point where I was like, yo, there's no light.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I got to get rid of the leg.
Yeah. It gets so dim. You want to talk about
if I don't do that, I'm not going to be okay.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about like we had mentioned in the beginning about the like the dark. That's as dark as it gets.
Dude, it was I was poisoned.
Oh, for sure.
Is what you feel like.
Yeah. I mean, I think about that a lot, and a big part of me thinks how you just were in your life. Like, how was your life? I mean,
it was awful.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, every day.
So at all times I operated with pain between a 3 and an 8.
Yeah. And a 3 was probably a good day.
3's as low as it ever gets.
Yeah. 3 was a good day.
And on a lot of those days, and if you were going to look at it individually, it's not intolerable.
Yeah.
Like I have days where I'm in more pain than that now, but I also know that it's going to be fine tomorrow.
For sure.
But it's never going to be fine.
Yeah.
Is where I was.
Absolutely.
And so it's always a 3. It's a 3 when I'm in bed. It's a 3 when I'm asleep. It's a 3. So I found I could turn it off by either being in the hot tub or getting in the cold tub.
Oh, okay. So contrast.
Not the contrast, but if I was in the hot tub, it didn't make any noise.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So I didn't feel a 3.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because sensory overload.
Yeah.
That I got a break.
Well, you had mentioned like that capsaicin stuff you were doing, like
so
just burning
that,
flesh.
That just got to the point where that didn't do anything.
Oh, really?
No, it still just fucking hurt and was hot. And so like, yeah, at least being in the hot tub, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
And the same with the cold tub, but you also can't just live in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so as soon as I'm out, I hear it. Like it didn't buy me any time.
Yeah.
And it just it just gets to the point that it's always this nagging thing with you that has trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
Hey. And then you can't give it attention. Mm-hmm. It just keeps yelling hey at you.
And not only that, it's saying, hey, you got to do something about this.
But there's not an answer.
Of course.
What are you doing, you little monster?
Wow.
And welcome old Ollie Rottenpaws to the show.
Hello.
The second one he rolled in on. He came in on Josh Bridges, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing. Was that a good one?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, great. No, but I mean, it's one of those things, like you had mentioned, your body just starts to fucking hate you. You know what I mean? It starts to hate you.
And I mean, I did this.
Yeah. You chose
know what I
it.
mean? Like,
this is the life that we've chose.
Look, I believe that there's a lot of things in athletics, whether it's, I don't care what sport it is, any of them.
Yeah.
There's a point where doing any of those things is healthy.
Yeah.
We waved bye-bye to that.
Absolutely.
That's not the goal anymore.
And a long time ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah. We got into the sport, like you said, just as many people get into sports originally as some sort of athletic endeavor to stay in shape or have fun
just
with
high
friends.
school.
Yeah,
I've never known not competing in a thing.
Yeah, but you get to a certain point, and I would say it's for me especially. It started in high school, senior year of high school, where you talk about waving goodbye. You wave goodbye to like, well, I'm diving into the deep end.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily a conscious decision at that age.
No. It's just it ends up being that way. But I could say it started at that age. You know what I mean? You get more to a point where you become an adult, and then you make that conscious decision because you're like, at this point, I've developed to a point where
I'm
there's
a
no
willing
going back.
passenger in this car now.
Absolutely.
It's different than realizing why am I here?
Yeah, it's like when in Fight Club when Brad Pitt and Edward Norton look at each other when they're in the car and they just like buckle up and then they just let the steering wheel go and it just fucking veers off and that's how it is.
Let fucking go.
It's a matter of just being like, well, time to buckle in because this is where we're going. If we end up going straight or we end up going off, that's where it's going.
Yeah, and not only that, like that this fire is going to burn hot temporarily. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And even if it's 10 years, like it's a decade of the 8 that you're alive.
For sure.
It's still super temporary.
Absolutely.
But
so many of us are just fucking itching just for that one time.
Yeah.
We're itching for that flame. Like you said, even if it burns hot just one fucking time. That's all I need. That's all I need to look back and be like, you know what? That was worth it.
I hope you find that moment, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's taken me a lot of retrospect to look at it that way. And like, I know that there's some memories I have of competing and throwing that I know are fucking great moments and they're mine.
For sure.
I've also got some real dog shit ones.
I would tell you, I would be willing to say that the majority of my moments in throwing specifically are dog shit.
My biggest failure as a competitor was like at a national championships, and I just couldn't have shit the bed worse.
Absolutely.
In an event.
Yeah.
Like, so Highland Games, the way it's scored, similar shot put. So if I take first place in an event, I get 1 point.
Yeah.
And then second place, 2 points. And so we have 9 events. Low score at the end of the day wins.
For sure.
And so there's 10 athletes at the Celtic Classic of the National Championship. So going into the final event, I've got a 6.5 point lead. Mm-hmm. There's only 10 of us.
Yeah.
Like, I have to really fuck up to lose.
Yeah, absolutely.
You
have to get like last.
Yes, to not win the overall.
To not win, exactly. Yeah, you're still going to place, but not to not win.
Yeah, so I think I need to finish like in the top 8, technically, something like that, or top 5, whatever it is. Okay. It shouldn't be a fucking problem.
It was 6.5 points.
Dude, and not only that, in 8 events, I've thrown 5 PRs and tied a world record.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
I've got it that day. I've got the stuff, dude.
Yeah, you find that flow that you find in sports
so, like,
where it's just like it's happening in slow motion. That's
weight over bar. I'm a 17-foot throw.
Yeah.
15 will get me everything I need.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying that you're well over the bar.
Yeah, I can very easily throw decent in the event. And opening height's 14 feet, and I missed my first one, which already sucks because there's countbacks.
Did you hit the bar or
slammed it straight into the fucking bar?
Okay, that's what I thought.
Blasted
There's
it.
no way at that point. Yeah.
And then, so Highland Games also works now that on height events, now there's countbacks. So, like, because you passed 14 on your first throw, that's better than me passing it on my second.
Absolutely. It's like high jump in track.
And so, exactly right. So, but if we both clear 15, we're both dead even again.
Yeah, exactly.
Just tie goes back to whatever.
For sure.
And so, like, bang it into the bar. Get up, take my second throw. And I've got 3 feet over the bar, but I leave it out front so it doesn't go
so it slams
over
back.
the bar.
Yeah.
So up and down in front.
Slams right back in. Oh, okay, yeah.
So now I'm going into a third throw. And so, like, I missed the first one, and all the guys are shit talking.
Yeah.
Because we should be.
Yeah.
It's fucking embarrassing.
14 should just be like,
it should be.
Well,
It's
there
embarrassing.
It is. Yeah.
And so going into the second one, it's like, oh, yeah, come on. And I fucking miss it. And now it's worse.
Yeah.
It's not shit talking. It's no one making eye contact with me.
Yep.
It's like fucking a no-hitter. Like everyone's just, oh, what's up, ground? What's over there?
I was gonna say.
And so like I'm like, you motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the dad being not mad. He's just disappointed.
Dude.
Yeah, you're like, it's fucking worse.
and like they don't want to look at me.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
And I go in for my third one, and I fucking miss. I leave it out front again. As soon as it left my hand, I'm like, that is not going over the bar.
You know,
Like that cost me $2,000.
I was gonna say,
I lost $2,000 of prize money and winning a national championship. And
all of us have those moments. All of us have. Like I can look back right now.
It's one of the few things in sports that's ever haunted me.
Oh yeah.
Like my remedy for never missing throwing a 14 feet again was I only went in at 15.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you
Fuck
said,
this.
yeah, just fuck that
It's
way.
never on the table.
Just fuck that height altogether.
Fuck you, I'm not going in.
Yeah, I actually have a story just like that. It's quite funny that you had mentioned a national championship. So I had come back from the University of Florida after my freshman year, and I had gone back to my high school coach to train for the junior national championship that year. Mm-hmm. So I went into college as an 18-year-old, so I had that extra year.
Right, same thing I got
exactly.
after my freshman year, yeah.
So I came back, and it was rough at the beginning to transition from what I was doing at Florida to what that coach wanted me, because it's a tough transition, but I had about 3 months to do it. And I would say about 2 weeks out from that meet, that junior national meet, I was on fire with that 6K. I had a
6K is so fun to throw at that age.
Oh my God. That was the thing. I was throwing at University of Florida, I was mainly throwing a 17-pound ball. So to go to a 6K, which is a 13-pound ball, was beautiful.
Yep.
It's like a 4K to me. So I'm going into this meet the day before the meet, usually because guys will have pre-meets either the day before or 2 days before. We did it the day before. I'm blasting the 6K over 21 meters, over 69 feet or so, like it's nothing. Like I'm just like, oh, it's it. So I go into the meet the next day. I start walking in like I feel like I'm king shit. Like I'm just like, there's just no fucking chance. And not like we had talked about, not the always party thing. It was more like I'm a young cocky kid.
Yeah, of course,
my
right.
shit don't stink kind of thing.
Yeah, like who the fuck are you to throw with me?
Exactly. So the day of, funny enough, the coach that I had ends up like changing my diet the day before.
Why?
And in the sense, and I know it's kind of one of those things where it was like, I think he and I both thought it wasn't going to be a big deal. It was just like a lot more like fruit and things to get me have greater glycogen stores.
Sure.
And for throwing, you don't need that.
No.
I'm not running a 10K. I don't need glycogen stores.
You're fine.
Fuck.
You're burning 8 calories.
Give me a steak. Then
There's
right before,
8 fucking calories
seriously.
are going to get burned in your entire throwing workout.
So, right before the event, I've got like a day's worth of just nothing but roughage in me. So if people don't understand what that's going to do to your GI tract, is let's just say it's ugly out the other end.
Oh no!
It was just terrible. I'm talking like literally. I went to the call room for it, and then I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I had somebody take me to the bathroom, and I just exploded in this bathroom. And I'm talking like this is like 20 minutes before we're going out to throw. So I go out to throw, and I still feel fine. I'm like, I'm still going to throw really far. I just kind of like, I don't really feel great.
Right.
I go into this meet. Once I stepped onto the track, so this is Eugene. You know how that is, that track. Once I stepped onto the track, and I saw the crowd and everything like that, it was like, hit me again.
Oh, no.
Hit me again.
Oh, no.
So I'm sitting out there, and it starts to hit me like a ton of bricks, and I get fucking nervous. I'm like, holy shit. Because the last thing I want to do is blast one and
shit
my pants.
Right.
Right? So I'm out there. I even take my warm-ups in the ring. Like, my first few throws are, like, really good. Like, I'm just like, holy shit. I'm gonna
Because you stayed a little loose, of course.
Yeah, easily. And I get, right before the meet, I walk over to my coach and I say something, and he says something to me that, you know, sometimes you get a coach who says something to you, and the next thing you know, it just fucks you here. They say something like, you better not fuck up, or like this is yours to lose.
It always amazes me when a coach hasn't figured out the thing that drives that athlete.
Absolutely.
Like,
It's
there's
such a
some people that
cookie-cutter
need
mold.
to be fucking yelled at. There's some people that need to be slapped on the back. And there's others that need to be told, go do your job.
Yeah. I mean, what it becomes is, with a lot of coaches who are more remedial and such, like high school coaches and things, it becomes a cookie-cutter sort of mold, like I had mentioned, in the sense that they're like, well, this has worked for previous athletes, so this has got to work for everybody.
Yep.
And that, at certain levels, that is not even remotely true.
Track and field, I've always thought that with track and field. I thought track and field, as far as like strength training within the throw sports, it's so incestuous.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you just get this pattern of a guy who's a good thrower, then
Sure.
gets hired as a coach, who eventually has an athlete who becomes a good thrower, who goes post-collegiate, and their option is they become a coach.
Yeah.
And so the strength training program starts as this, well, I did what we did in college, and then the few things that worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then all their athletes do it, and eventually one of them is successful.
Absolutely. And then you get thrown into like, well,
And
this
so
guy knows what
then
he's doing.
they do the same thing, except add their few tweaks.
Oh, my God.
And then next thing you know, like, you've got athletes who aren't deadlifting.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Like, why the fuck aren't we deadlifting?
Well, there's so much to it. It's just like, it's development in general. Like, I just find most strength and conditioning programs, even at a collegiate level, because I've been around in the collegiate level, so remedial.
Yes.
It's just like, it's the most meat and potatoes thing, and I don't know if it's just this older wave of coaches leaving and newer coaches coming in.
Dude, think about what I was dealing with. Like,
Of course.
The difference in information.
Of course. I mean, like, you know, you go through
YouTube didn't exist.
exactly. But you get these things where you get these coaches who only know one way.
Yep.
And this newer wave of coaches, I have found that the newer wave of coaches in the NCAA, the Justin St. Clairs at NDSU with Peyton, the John Newells, like Stan was mentioning earlier, like, these guys have, even Eric Worski over at Iowa, who's had a ton of success. This new wave of young coaches coming in have spent so much more time and diligence going to seminars, learning the craft, not throwing, for strength and conditioning. Because people don't understand that just having kids do squat, bench, all this other stuff, it's only going to go so far.
Or, I mean, like, for fuck's sake, right? Like, if you're a throws coach and you're trying to look at things for nutrition or any of these type of things, like, why wouldn't you look at the people who are in the best in the world at those things? Like, why wouldn't you be interested in, say, what a Stan Efferding is talking about with the vertical diet?
Absolutely.
So, like, what it's changing in his body system and how it prepares for this. You know, seeing what works there versus, you know, maybe there is something to the West Side method as far as training. Like, why don't we mix things up throughout the off season and throw different weight shots every day, and we try different things and a different stand throw and a different approach, right?
For sure.
Like, there's a way to conjugate that style of training. There's track and field, to me, just felt like it was this fucking thing that just never looked outside of itself.
Yeah, and in that as well, you know, in most sports, but track especially, everybody's trying to find that magic pill, when in reality it's not. It's not meat and potatoes like I was talking about, but it's not hard. Like, you had mentioned Stan Efferding, and I've been looking into a little bit of his stuff, and he had mentioned, this was a while back now, but he had mentioned, like, just adding a pinch of pink Himalayan sea salt
To everything.
and how great his workouts were.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. It's
because
it's not
you have to
hard
be
things.
hydrated and drinking water, especially tap water that isn't mineral water in our country. Like, it leaches minerals out of you.
Absolutely.
Because water wants minerals in it.
Yes. Yeah.
And so if it doesn't have them, it's going to take them from you to have them.
To have them, exactly,
Right.
yeah.
And
So, rather than having muscles that are hydrated, well performing, most people have beef jerky in their body. They have, you know, that's why you see so many muscle tears now and things like that. It's, you know, just people aren't taking.
You're not hydrated.
They're
properly.
not taking the diligence to do that. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things where I just find that in and of itself, to have performances that are exceedingly rare or really, really good, it doesn't always take, some supplement or something like that. But it does take finding new ways and new methods to really hone in on that specific person to make them the best that they can be.
Yep.
And that's what I was trying to get at. People will always live and die with a squat, bench, clean, and snatch.
We have that figured out.
Of course. But like you had mentioned, like I had talked to you, like tomorrow I'm going to be doing sumo deadlifts.
Yeah.
And it's like that is going to work my hip flexors so well that it's going to really help in the style of throwing that I do.
If you have the physical ability to get into that position and not be compromised, why wouldn't you do it?
Absolutely. And if that, like I had mentioned,
why wouldn't I train my squat narrow, wide, and
exactly,
normal?
Exactly, and that's one thing that's gone by the wayside too. Is it's just kind of one of those things where people say, "Oh, it's always got to be shoulder width" or something like that, and it's like, what are we trying to achieve first and foremost?
That's exactly
what
right.
are we trying to achieve?
What's the goal?
Yeah, am I just trying to get big quads, or am I just trying to be a freak athlete? What am I trying to do here? You know what I mean? There's different ways to approach these methods based on what you want to do. If I'm just trying to look good, I mean, there's a thousand different
If that's
ways.
the way to go, why you wouldn't train the way we train?
No, absolutely
You would
not.
train the way bodybuilders train.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. There's
And
a thousand
same
different ways
thing
to go
with
about
nutrition. It's amazing to me that people will fucking look at nutrition in so many different ways and what to figure out. Meanwhile, the biggest and leanest people on earth are bodybuilders. Clearly, they've got something right. Just do that.
I mean, yeah, and you could say that there's some sort of PED enhancement, but you look at...
Yeah, but goddamn...
No. And listen, I'm not saying
there's
that's
not
the
a magic
reason.
one they're taking that no one else is taking.
Like I had mentioned, in this life...
there's not just bodybuilder drugs. There's just drugs, and it's the same ones I'm on, and I don't fucking look like that.
That's what I'm saying. In this life, there is no magic pill.
Nothing.
No matter even if you take those PEDs, that is only going to allow you to be at a point where you can put in more work than you ever have. And that in of itself is the only way you're going to achieve what you're looking for. Right. I can't just like put it in and next thing I know, I'm just like at the height.
Like we got lights failing real quick. And so like, along with what you're saying, wrap this up.
Yeah.
Like it was something I thought about the other night and kind of came to this conclusion on it. I'm watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And there's a scene. It's great. It's classic. And there's a scene in it where Paul Rudd is sitting at the booth where he's doing surf lessons.
Okay.
And Jason Segel's character comes up to him, and Paul Rudd says, "You got a lot of sadness in your eyes." And he's like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "You know what's good for that?" And he's like, "Oh, what?" He says, "Weed." And then he says, "Do you have any?" And Jason Segel's like, "No." And he goes, "Well, let's go surfing." Like this is the next best thing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's golden. Like it's perfectly delivered, and it's really easy to look at that memorable line and be like, fucking Paul Rudd's brilliant.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Right?
Right?
It's magic.
Yeah.
It's not magic. There's a person who wrote that script. There's people who edited the script.
Yeah.
There's someone who did Paul Rudd's makeup. There's the person who picked out both their outfits. There's a person that chose that location to shoot what isn't a surf stand that exists in the real world. They made one.
In Hawaii or
right,
whatever that was, yeah.
There's Paul Rudd's ability as an actor to do multiple takes and have it still be genuine. There's the guys who wrote the script to get it booked, to get production, to get money, to have this happen. There's people in the editing bay that chose that take.
Yeah. Yeah. It's out of his hand at that point.
And so my point with that is, and whether that's the bodybuilders or anyone who's ignorant looks at a thing and says, it's fucking magic.
Yeah.
When the truth is, it's not. It's fucking 20 people working their ass off who give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that's what's the magic. The magic is that guy's ability to just do.
Yeah.
Like fucking like top level bodybuilders I know, like fucking Flex Lewis.
Yeah, we were talking about him earlier.
Jesus, man. Like the amount of meat on that guy's skeleton, it's fucking comical.
Yeah.
And it's like I've lifted weights a really long time.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But there is a number of repetition and weight that equal that.
Yeah.
And I'm a long fucking way from whatever that number of repetition plus resistance equals.
For sure.
But it's a number.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Like, I've lifted my entire life.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm nowhere near it.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's not magic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, it's easier to explain by magic because admitting that someone has that is scarier.
And also, unfortunately, it's mainly because a lot of people are fucking lazy.
Yeah.
A lot of people would rather just say, I'd rather just sit here and fucking eat my chips while that guy's out there literally kicking every
meanwhile,
day
I've got a thyroid problem. If it wasn't for this ankle I tweaked back in middle school, I would have been on fucking top.
Shot,
right.
Okay, like, get out of here. Okay, I have a medical issue.
It's a gland issue. No, it isn't. It's the fucking 5 bags of chips you eat.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just like such a laziness issue. People just don't want to give everything. And
but people also look at someone else's success as a point at my failure.
Of course.
And that's not fair either.
For sure.
Like, look at someone's success and just be stoked for them to realize that that's a possibility that exists on Earth.
For sure. And I can relate this as we wrap this up. I could relate what you were just saying to my career as a shot putter, kind of to come full circle. For me, the first day I ever worked with Ryan Whiting, he had mentioned to me, he goes, hey, this is your PR, you know what it takes to get to that very top level. Do you believe inside that you can do that? And there was no part of me that ever thought I couldn't. So I said, I know I can. But for me, it was about holding on. It was about, I'm not just going to fucking let this go. I'm not going to let this go. I would be willing to do all of that. And the only way that happens is with the people behind the scenes. Ryan, all these other people. We have a woman named Rebecca that does, physiotherapy. It's all these certain things. But for me to be the best that I could be, it's always about holding on and never letting that go, never letting that laziness, that feeling of just being like, well, let me just I can just leave this. I could probably just be happier. My psyche would just be better off not having to bang my head against the wall every day trying to perfect this craft. But that's not who I am, and that's, like we had mentioned, that's not the path in this life that I have ever chosen for myself. I would be much worse off choosing that direction every single day of my life, realizing, what could I have done? Where could I have been?
Fuck that, dude.
If I had just given it I look at in a year and a half with Ryan, it's been, I was with Ryan in April of 2019. So about a year and a half with Ryan, I have gone up 2 meters.
Right, which is fucking insane.
2 meters. And imagine if I would have just left the sport.
It's 10%.
Absolutely.
You picked up 10% at the end of college, right?
Yeah.
Which it's not like it's irregular within our sport. Like, there's definitely within track and field that your peak age is not 24.
Yeah.
You know, it's mid to upper 20s.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
possibly
muscle maturity
early
is a huge
30s.
thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Me and Ryan actually joke all the time that he'd probably be better off now because of that dad strength.
Right. It's like, dude, if you can just stay healthy until you're 32, is the trick.
Yeah, but I look at that and I think, what if I'd have given this up? Like, what if I'd have given? I look to the future as well, where I'm gonna be going, where I'm headed, where I know that I can be, where the ability that I have to not only give up like I haven't, but the ability that I have to give all of myself, work every single day, do the diligence, not be a piece of shit anymore, so have mental psyche, all those things. Where that can take me, where that could take this whole vessel, the whole ship of throwing a shot put really fucking far. Imagine if I would have just given that up. Imagine if I'd be in a cubicle right now just being some sort of accountant and just being like, well, that was what the world wanted of me, rather than what I wanted for myself.
Or just even sitting in that state, right, and having that voice of like, what if I would have done that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, there's a timeline somewhere where that happened.
Oh, for sure.
And man, I'm glad I'm not on that one.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I'm glad that if I can trace things back to a point of yes or no, do I try to do more of this or am I not interested?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so fucking glad I've always gone
100%.
to know, to
1,000%.
Like, and not only that, like what you're saying with that motivation daily to not be a piece of shit, to not do any of that, like, especially with what you're saying, it's like 100% a day is coming that you're not going to throw again.
I will one day
not
take my last throw.
Yeah, of course, right? But while the thing's running hot, let's fucking go,
Absolutely. Man. I'm redlining this. I'm at 7
100%,
RPMs.
Yeah. It's
I'm
just
at 7 RPMs.
pinned it to win it.
Absolutely.
This engine's gonna. The key is getting out before the engine blows up.
And what impresses me so much about you, in particular, with what you do every single day, is you've taken that mentality and put it into life, which is where I want to go with my life.
It's
no
been
matter what
fun,
you
man.
do, no matter what you do, no matter where you choose to go, once you've taken that last throw or once you've lifted that last pound, what you choose after that, if you give it 7 RPMs. There's nobody stopping you.
Dude, there's definitely something different that comes from the obsession side.
Absolutely.
Like that, the post-collegiate, that like giving your adult life to a thing. The thing that comes from it is you figured out the recipe.
Yep.
That anything you're going to give a shit that you want to be that good at again starts when you were 12.
Yeah. Yeah,
and then you got
me,
good at it.
Yeah, it starts at 4
at
when
30.
I played T-ball for the first time. Yeah.
Right, and so anything else I want to be good at, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And I know that.
Yeah.
And if I'm not willing to give it that, I can't complain that I suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking everything's going to take that long to get fucking great at.
Absolutely.
It takes 10 years.
Absolutely.
Like if you want to get strong, it's really simple. Just lift moderately heavy and don't get hurt for the next decade. Like it'll fucking work out. You can't fuck it up. That's the thing. There's better and worse ways to do it, but that will get it done.
Yeah, I have a saying I've been following for a long time, and I think it really applies to that especially. Not only just this more goes for after athletics. I find that if you are in tune with that as a human being, I always follow this code of I'm playing on house money.
Dude,
you know what I mean? I mean, like for
always.
you especially, like that's I look at what you're doing, how fucking happy you are, and this is outside of athletics. How happy you are, how fucking rad the shit you're doing, all these other things that you're gonna be doing with your life, where you're taking the brand. You're fucking playing with house money, man.
It's wild.
You're playing with house money.
It's wild, and that's one of those things I thought too. And it's when I got out of pain, and then got any realization that this was gonna work. And I had an opportunity to live this way. Yeah. Yo, I ain't never going back.
Oh my God. Why?
No,
Why?
It's like it's like I drank a different thing that like I've seen too much now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's
now there may be times that I end up having to get a job. Right?
Yeah,
like there may be things come and go, and if things fucking fail, and I've been broke before, and so fucking weird shit happens.
Yeah.
But it will always be steps getting back to this.
And I look at, there's a saying that Jim Carrey had said at a commencement speech. Have you heard that before? That to me resonates so deep, especially with what we've been talking about these past however many hours.
About like his dad being an accountant.
His dad being an accountant, and his dad goes, Jim, go after what you love because you could still fail at shit you don't want to do.
When you fail at the compromise.
Yeah. You fail at the shit, you're like, well, I guess I'll just fall back onto that, and that'll just be my safe bet, and you could still fail. Still fail.
Fail at a thing you didn't want to do.
Yeah. Why would you not, after hearing things like that and realizing... You had mentioned like opening up all these doors and realizing that's what it is. Why would you not redline it all the time? And I don't mean like 110%, 1,000 miles an hour.
That's the thing. Like I don't know, right? Do other people not hear that noise?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah. And this could also just be us talking as.
Well, we're crazy people.
That's what I'm saying. A separate faction of population.
Yeah. Of course.
Of
like we're fucking lunatics.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where we've gotten to where we've gotten.
But I'm also kind of only interested in talking to lunatics.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Right? Like I
only want to associate myself with
right. Like I
want
to know a bunch of fucking crazy people, man.
But yeah, I mean and like I said, it's not always about just like being so out of your mind by trying to do everything. It's about just everything in life, giving it everything. Like why would you just not do that?
No, but like you see it in someone, and when you see that click or that light in their eyes of obsession.
Yeah, absolutely. I see both. I also see the other side. The lack thereof the light. The lack thereof being anything that burns deep inside of you gives you that fiery passion. I've seen that as well. And I'm telling you right now, that's even scarier to me.
It's a way big of a bummer, dude.
For sure.
I'll fucking eat a bullet before I go out like that.
And that's what I'm saying. You talk about going out on your own terms.
I'm so not interested in going through the motions.
No, that to me is, you know, I don't want to judge somebody on their life, but what a just lackluster,
look, man,
lackluster
I think,
existence. And to me,
and if you're stoked, I don't care.
Of course.
If you're stoked,
but that's where
I
want
want
everybody.
If you are stoked to be an accountant, if you're stoked to be working in a cubicle doing coding, like not everyone needs my fucking weirdo life.
No. Yeah,
I get it, right? But if you're stoked, I'm behind you.
But that's where everybody
like if you're
should
a dentist and you're pumped.
No, for sure.
Right?
And that's what I'm saying. Even small things. I had a guy I knew in college. My minor is in occupational therapy, which I think in and of itself, that profession is amazing.
Okay.
You get people, basically occupational therapy is people get, my friend's dad was doing this. It's essentially people who have left their jobs because of some sort of injury. So
you get them back to work.
You get them back to work. My my friend's dad, Connor McCulley, he's a hammer thrower. He's actually a national champion. His father does it, and he does it with his hand, with people's hands. To come back to what I was saying, my buddy did that with me in college. He did that minor in occupational therapy. That guy has more of a fire than anybody I have ever met to be an occupational therapist. A small sub-faction in this in this society, he is every day stoked to wake up and go.
Dude, he's not phoning it in.
No.
Like,
Shout out to
I'm
Diego
not saying,
Lopez, by the way. That's who that is.
Fuck all. And that's the same with, like, my friends are the same way. Like, I just, no one's phoning it in.
Yeah.
That idea that, like,
you're not fabricating it.
oh man, that I'm waiting for this imaginary time in the future to do it.
I can't stand more than anything, because that brings up a good point. People just buying time. I'll just do this till something magically comes and it appears, and that's what I'll choose to do with my life. And next thing you know, you're 40 or 50 doing that job still. What do you think? All of a sudden you're going to have, 10 golden years of trying to do what you want to do? I'm 25.
Right.
The best part about what I'm doing right now, chasing this dream of doing what I'm doing, is I'm 25.
Yep.
My whole life is ahead of me.
There's no better time for you to do this.
Whatever I choose. This
is absolutely what this part of your life should be fucking doing.
Absolutely.
It should be pouring the goddamn gas on a thing.
Absolutely.
And seeing what
lighting
happens.
The fire. Yeah. Just throw literally lighter fluid on everything, light a match, and see what burns.
At least, like, you don't need to be locked into some fucking career in your 20s.
No.
Like, figure your life out, have some weird jobs, figure your thing out that sets you on fire.
Absolutely.
Find that in your 20s.
Fuck, yes.
Instead of trying to figure it out at 50 and midlife crisising it. Like, midlife crisis has happened. I went through in a very good one.
Yeah.
It was
an
a fucking rough
I
go,
feel like,
but
else,
it needed to happen, man.
For sure.
But
and I feel like a part of you looks back on that. Maybe things within that time were unfavorable, but you look back on that enlightenment, and you're probably glad that happened.
I don't get here without it.
Of course.
And I'm really happy being here.
Yes.
There were some shitty times,
Of
just
course.
between, end of a marriage and all that type of stuff.
Of
Just
course.
fucking sucks, man.
Of course.
It's just uncool. I'm glad it's turned out as okay as it has for Ashley and I, but still being able to be close. But yeah, it's just lame, and it just is super fucking uncool. But yeah, like, knowing that coming out of the other side, and what I wanted to do was pursue this life of whatever this is. Whatever this thing that's allowing me to travel this way and meet people and try things and create for a living. I got to know what it's all about.
Yeah.
I have to fucking know. I get a chance to do this, man. I don't want to go the normal route.
Absolutely.
If I get a chance.
For sure.
I'm sure not sitting there at some point saying, I wonder if.
I'll die on that hill with you.
Fuck
I'm
that,
telling you right
man.
now.
Like, I got to know.
I'll die on that hill with you.
I got to fucking know.
Absolutely.
And, like, I'm okay with failure.
I would much rather at the end of my life realize, well, I failed, but I gave it everything I had, and I went after everything I had. I went on the other side of that mountain.
I would so much rather be a guy that has 100,000 failures
100%.
than the dude who successfully did one thing safely.
Hundo P, like I mentioned earlier. 100%.
You know, at least that's life experience, and it's a
100%.
thing, and fucking
I
trying
want
something.
battle scars. I want wounds.
Yeah,
I
man.
want cuts. I want bruises. That's life.
Dude, I'm
character.
I'm for sure going in the ground like wheels on fire, sliding
That's what I'm
in
saying.
with 75 cents in an account.
All
somewhere
that
is
shows
the whole plan.
that's a roadmap telling you of where you've been,
Yeah,
where you're
man.
going. You know, and
Fuck
that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah, I'd rather you put me in the grave, like you said, half my body because I went out that hard.
I hope I can't be found. Like, I hope that's as good as it goes, right?
I
They're
think
like,
that's actually,
well,
yeah.
we're pretty sure he's
Do you want to
dead.
be buried or
But there's
cremated?
still
I don't
some,
wanna be
like,
found. Yeah.
curiosity of, like, maybe he's not.
Yeah, I just want to be
Live forever.
MIA. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, that's how I went out.
No, I'm
MIA.
fucking gone, dude. It just... And, like, no different than that, right? Like, no different than there's an end date to your shot put career.
Absolutely.
There's an end date to this.
Yeah,
I just don't know when it is.
for sure. But why not give
So-
it everything till then?
I know that I got right now, so I may as well enjoy the fuck out of this.
Why not give it everything till then?
Yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? If you go out earlier than you expected or you had planned, why
That's the
not?
cards, man.
Yeah, but why not be giving it, like I said, 7 RPMs? Why not be redlining it?
And
Why not just be, like you said, on fire?
and
setting
not
your
only that,
fucking
like
soul on
also
fire.
realize of like I live in the coolest time
Yes.
ever.
Yeah.
Like the way that we have the ability to reach people via this, and I don't have to go through some conglomerate of suits and bullshit to have a talk show,
Yeah.
right? That I can just fucking do this because I want to, and it can hit the people that it resonates with.
And then you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Not to say that's what you do it for,
Like-
but still.
I mean, it's nice.
Yes. Yeah.
But like I couldn't have done this 10 years ago.
No,
like it
God,
doesn't exist.
no.
I couldn't fucking do any of the stuff that I
you
get
had
to
mentioned
do.
that when you were at LSU, you didn't even have YouTube.
Right.
You want to talk about doing
Yeah,
this? Are you
YouTube
kidding
didn't
me?
exist when I was in college.
This whole thing is a
podcast
fallacy.
wasn't a thing. And
Yeah.
fuck, man, like it's so rad that I get to do this
Yeah.
for a living.
Absolutely.
But man, this has been fucking rad. I think they've got pizza upstairs. So
Oh, well, fuck. Then we
I'm
got to wrap this
interested
up.
in that.
Yeah, I was going to say. Well, I'm Italiano, so I've
Yeah,
got to be
perfect.
interested in that, right?
dude, where can everyone find all your stuff?
Yeah, so I'm mainly just on Instagram. I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel soon. I was going to talk to you
Nice.
about that. Yeah. I want to really start getting into doing stuff like that because for me, there's no shot putter really out there that vlogs on a regular basis, I would say, traveling to other countries. I think that's a really fucking cool
I
thing
think
to
it would be
show.
really cool too. I
Yeah.
think it would be good. I think there's a ton of content that could be created, especially between you and having Ryan around.
Oh,
Like you have a
absolutely.
good cast.
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
well.
With Darrell and
Yeah.
Nick Scarvellis and Chase, Ely, and
Yeah.
Jess Woodard. I think that would be really cool. But for me right now, Instagram's my main thing, Chubby Diamonds.
Chubby Diamonds.
Classic. That'll never change. And probably anything else I do create, if I do announce that, it'll be some sort of version of that, either
Yeah.
the Chubby Diamonds with a Z or something like that
Hell
if it's
yeah.
taken. But that'll be I want that to be my
Chubby
brand.
Diamonds.
Chubby Diamonds.
It's the brand.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. Dude, thanks so much, man. I'm
Well,
stoked
thanks for having
to
me.
have you and get to hang out finally.
Definitely.
So,
This was a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed this.
yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. We're going to go eat pizza now.